Welcome to another CEO Wisdom podcast. We have a special guest today, JJ Virgin. She's a celebrity nutrition, fitness, and expert, 4X New York Times best-selling author, founder of Mindshare Collaborative, and she's done so many things. She's been on Dr. Phil. She's a powerhouse. I would describe her as that. She also hosts a podcast. We're going to talk about that today. It's called the JJ Version Lifestyle Show with 17 million downloads. So JJ, welcome to the pod.
You have a very old bio. Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah.
What's the new one? Tell me about the new one.
So the new bio, we actually, and it's interesting when you rebrand, rebranding is super painful, as you know, if you've ever done it. But we took our Mindshare Collaborative. We were in Europe doing some talks to health practitioners, which Mindshare Collaborative helps health practitioners grow and scale their businesses. And they didn't know what it meant. So we rebranded as Health Business Growth Collective. And then 2 years ago, I rebranded that podcast to Well Beyond 40. So now it's at more like 23 million downloads. So those are some changes. We do have a business podcast, the Health Business Growth Show, that we just, I think, put on hiatus. However, I'm pulling it back up to start again. So that's what's up. Not sure where you found that old bio.
It's interesting because it's on ChatGPT, so it's really recent. So I would have to refer you to my LLM GPT expert so that GPT could return an actual one. But thanks for clarifying that. But in a couple of words, you're a high achiever, right? I want to start with the basic. And early on in your life, what prompted you to want to be so successful and go into health also?
You know, I have always been fascinated with health and marketing. Love those two things. I've always loved them. I'm an adopted kid, so I think part of the drive was feeling like there was no one coming to save me, that I didn't really have any fallback, you know? So I always figured I had to take care of myself. But my whole interest in health switched dramatically right when I was publishing my first book. And my first New York Times bestseller, I actually launched bedside in a trauma unit in an intensive care next to my son, who was then 16 and had been the victim of a hit and run and was literally hanging on for life. And it was interesting because it was a book that's a diet book, Virgin Diet, drop 7 foods, lose 7 pounds, just 7 days. But I realized that first night I was in the hospital with him, and what I was looking at in front of me, that if I had not walked into that situation at the top of my game, you know, having a strong body, strong mind, and a leveraged business, I never would have been able to pull off what I was able to pull off with him. So it just really expanded. I'd been very much niched into the weight loss space, and I kind of focused out much more into like, what do we need to do to really, you know, create powerful health, because we all need it, especially as entrepreneurs, right? Can make the difference with everything.
Right. And that chip on your shoulder, do you still have it up to this day? Do you still feel the urge to accomplish more, or you're like, yeah, I had a good life, I'm almost done, about to retire now?
I am not about to retire. Like, I do not even, someone just texted me the other day that a friend was retiring, and I'm like, what? I don't even understand that. I am more excited right now about, I have 2 companies, and I'm actually more fired up about what's happening in both of those companies than I ever have been. So I don't have any, I think people retire when they hate what they're doing, so they need to retire from it. Like, I don't have that situation. I am completely fueled by everything going on and love what I'm doing, and don't have any intent to stop that anytime soon.
And how would you compare the JJ that is now to the JJ 10 years ago or 20 years ago?
Well, just older and wiser, right? Actually, I think I'm stronger. I'm in the best shape of my life. When I was getting ready to turn 60, I kind of had this moonstruck moment where I was like going, oh my gosh, like all these things are supposed to start falling apart. And I go, well, what if they don't? What if I like actually got in even better shape, started doubling down on pull-ups and squats and push-ups and all of that and sprinting. And so that's what I've been doing there. And, you know, I think one of the things that happens with age, number one, you get a lot wiser, and wise is not something you can really learn. But number two, you also value time in a way where you start to look ahead and go, like there's no time for procrastination, right?
Right. Yeah, that is one. Do you have a different outlook to life? What do you mean when you say wiser? Let's double click on that.
Yeah, wise, it's not education. It's where education intersects with experience. To just know that you can draw back into your vault and go, I've experienced this before. Like just even the situation that happened with my son. If I get into a stressful situation, my benchmark for is this a challenging situation is anyone like dying here, And if not, it's not really a challenging situation. So it gives you this big vault of things to refer back to. So you've likely handled a similar situation already. And so you've got context.
And your son, that was a pretty hard one. How did you actually get through that? I hope I never have to go through this, but how did you actually get through it?
So I hope you never do either. It wouldn't be anything I'd ever wish on a parent. Like when you look at becoming a parent, the one thing you want to make sure you do is have your kids outlive you by a long, and you want to live a long life and you want them to live a long life. And so it was, fortunately, everything I'd done up until the point of that accident happening had trained me for how to handle that accident. When I was 30, I had a mentor. And I moved in with her because she was going to teach me how to be successful in business. And I literally sold my company that I had out in Los Angeles. I was in the PhD program at USC in exercise science. I dropped out. I moved to Florida to move in with her to learn how to be successful. And the first 6 months, she didn't teach me anything about how to be successful in business. She had me wearing a little rubber band around my wrist, and every time I had a limiting belief, I had to snap my wrist. She had me working on, it was all mindset stuff. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm so impulsive, classic ADD entrepreneur. I sold my company, dropped out of a PhD and did this. And now I'm with a crazy woman who's telling me to snap a rubber band around my wrist. But the reality was, within 6 months, she'd reframed the entire way that I looked at life. And so when my son got hit, and literally that first night in the trauma center of this hospital, where the doctor is telling us that we need to let my son go, that he would never survive the airlift or the surgery that he has to go through in order to save his life. And my other son, who was then 15, my son was 16 at the time, saying, well, it sounds like a 0.25% chance he'd make it. Let's take those odds, because he'd been trained by me, right? That we only knew how to look at the possibility, at the vision, not the circumstances there. And that I so tightly controlled my mindset of not letting anything sneak in that was a negative outcome, because I believe that our thoughts create, right? So fortunately, working with Kay Smith had set up all the training. So when I was in this situation, again, that's wisdom. I knew my body knew how to respond. I didn't have to think about it. I just literally, when the doctor, said that, and my son was like 0.25% chance he'd make it, it was like, well, that's not zero. Let's go. Let's just do this.
That's fucking incredible. And he did make it. What was the protocol that you put
he
in
did
on?
make it. And we did a lot of things behind the scenes. So he had a serious brain injury, multiple brain bleeds, was in the deepest coma, like this Glasgow score, like the highest one. So he had that going on. He had 13 fractures, literally his femurs, both of them broke. He had a crushed heel, and he had a torn aorta. That was the first life-threatening thing that they fixed. But then, I remember the doctor coming in going, okay, his aorta's fixed. Now, I don't know if he'll ever wake up, right? And so we didn't know. And I literally did everything. We started with topical progesterone, because there was research showing that it would reduce the inflammation. We started getting fish oil put into his feeding tube. The hospital wouldn't let me do as much as I wanted. So when he spit his feeding tube out, I started behind the scenes, full court press on lots of fish oil, lots of essential amino acids, because he was bedridden, and which means he was losing muscle quickly. Now, one thing I was fortunate with was that he was young and that he had a lot of muscle mass going into this, because even 1 week of bed rest for a young man, they will lose 2 pounds of muscle and like 37% insulin sensitivity. It's crazy. And
Holy
he
shit.
was in bed rest for months, but I started moving him as quickly as possible. He came out of the coma after about 3 weeks. And even though he was not really cognizant, I started bringing him back with everything that I could think of and getting him to like move and, contract and all that.
What's your relationship with doctors that tell you like 2.5% and they're really pessimistic? Are they doing their best? What's up with them?
Well, so when he got hit, he was in Palm Springs, California, and he was at the trauma center there. Now, the doctor who was the head of the trauma center there sees people who are 70, 80, 90. And people who are 70, 80, 90 that get run down by a car and left for dead in the street are done. A 16-year-old who's super stubborn with a lot of muscle mass and already a lot of fish oil in his system, which was neuroprotective, have a chance. He was just operating on the information that he knew. And truthfully, the system has screwed our doctors to the point where they feel like if they give you hope, they're going to get sued. We had a lot of amazing doctors who helped save Grant's life in that hospital. But then what we needed to do after the life-saving pieces of like, would his kidneys fail and, keeping him breathing, all that. Once we got through that, then we had to go outside of that into a lot of the more innovative doctors, like Dr. Daniel Amen, to help him come back to where he is now. So, I think you work with the right doctor at the time. And I feel more sad that there are doctors trapped in a system that is governed by big healthcare and big pharma and big insurance kind of screwing them to be stuck having to say those things. Like, I actually don't fault them. I know I work with so many doctors, and it's just a sucky system. I think it's the fault of the system, not the fault of the doctor.
What would a doctor look like a decade or two in the future from now with the AI revolution that we're in?
So it's an interesting time, and this is part of our Health Business Growth Collective. Is we're actually doing an event in September, our Mindshare Summit annual event, and we are doubling down on helping healthcare practitioners really build their personal brand, because it's clear that AI is going to really help with diagnostics. I mean, that's going to be amazing. Like recently I had a lab test done and I fed it into AI with very specific prompts and got incredible results pulled out of it. And so I think that a lot of that's going to be helpful. However, there's still that place of the personal touch, the coaching, the leadership, the support that you're going to need. And so they're going to have to really double down on that piece of it. It's the part that you've never had to do. You always had to become a great diagnostician and clinician. And where you really need to do now is develop much more of the skills of being a great speaker, a great leader, right? A great coach. That's where we really are going to need. That's the part the AI can't replace.
Yeah, the empathy part.
Right.
I think most doctors are good. They just don't have time and they're really stressed as well, right? And depression and suicide rates is quite preoccupying in that class. Why do you think that is?
Well, we teach doctors to step outside of that system. So if you look at the traditional fee-for-service model, it's set up to just destroy doctors and create burnout. And it also is set up where, as they start to learn a different way, let's say that they go out, and quite often this happens because either they get sick or a family member gets sick. And case in point, had my son been in the traditional model, he would be incapacitated right now. But because we knew what we knew outside of the system of things we could do with nutrition, with neurofeedback, with hyperbaric, all the other stuff, we brought him back to be a fully functional, 29-year-old. And so one of the challenges I see is the doctors who start to learn, and generally they'll do this because they get sick or a family member or friend gets sick and they can't, the traditional system is failing them. And so they start to look outside it. And once they start to learn what can be done with, advanced testing, with, different uses for drugs, with supplements, with food, with meditation, with exercise, you can't unsee it, right? And then you've got to figure out how to practice, and it doesn't fit in the traditional system of 7 minutes per patient. It doesn't work. And so what we've been really doing is helping take that time crunch, burnt out, frustrated physician and teach them how to move from a very transactional time-based model where time will always be their limiter. So they're always going to be burnt out. There's no way around it, into a place where they can package what they do into a results-based system and move the focus off of time and use leverage like health coaches, AI to help them. So they're really there as much more of the director, facilitator, leader, right? And they have a team helping them using their methodology to be able to get someone well.
And going back in time, I'm going to test your memory with 3 questions here. How was your pregnancy? What was your protocol? As a high performer, did you work less? How did that affect you? And 3, were you taken care of by the public system, or did you have a specific pregnancy protocol that you followed?
So I've always been, I've been into nutrition and fitness since I was in my teens. So for pregnancy, I was fortunate to have a really good friend who was my OBGYN, but I did all of my own nutrition and exercise, and I was working out right up until I literally worked the day before I gave birth. And my first son, the morning of his due date, water breaks at 6 a.m. This is the type of kid he is too, very punctual. That's it, right? And literally I was back in the gym. I was back working out like 2 days later. I think I was rollerblading. So, it didn't miss a beat. If you look in like a lot of these other countries, I mean, this is not like a disease state or something, like you exercise, you eat right, you sleep well, you manage your stress, you give birth, you get back at it. So no, I didn't take any time off. I've always been an entrepreneur. I had one job in college. I got fired. Actually, I had one job after college that I got fired because I was too many ideas. I know you can relate. And so, I work from home, so I manage my own schedule. So everything's always been, easier to be able to prioritize what I want to be able to do with my kids and put their schedules first, which is what I did. So, I mean, both pregnancies were super easy. Literally my first pregnancy, it was the second contraction, big contraction, first push. The next pregnancy, it was literally the first big contraction, push, done. The doctor's like, you should do this all the time. I'm like, but then I'd have like a gazillion kids, It's like, pass, pass on that.
And do you feel the current system is the way women should have their pregnancies in an hospital bed? Would there be a better protocol to that?
Yeah, if I really wanted to do this at home, but got overruled. I personally like doing this in what I would call more of a hybrid setting. Like, I think we should have these beautiful birthing centers that have medical professionals on staff, because you never know what's going to happen. If something happens, sometimes things have to get taken care of immediately. So why not create like a really amazing place for a birthing center that's not so clinical, right? That could have the clinical staff you needed, but also has doulas there and really sets up a beautiful experience for everybody, which is how it should be. That's what I would love to see. So we have the best of both worlds, because, just like with my son, had I not had all of these amazing doctors and this incredible trauma center, he would be gone. But if I had not had all the integrated professionals, he wouldn't be, living his full life. So we need all of us. It's not one versus the other.
Curious about your life partner. How do you both complement each other? Because you have like that go-getter energy. Is he the same?
We are. My ex-husband, who is just the sweetest human being on the planet, is amazingly smart, but really doesn't have a whole lot of ambition and drive. He has it around tennis. So he's an amazing dad. He's been incredible for helping my son. But we kind of went like this, right? It was very challenging. My husband, life partner, who is like my perfect match. when I met him, he had a corporate job and he was actually working for the bad guys in my mind. I'm like, you're working for like a big, they managed pharmaceutical records and did all this stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, right? And it was funny because he was kind of an intrapreneur in a corporate setting. But as he got around all of us, and I always knew he was more entrepreneurial because he just is that way. He literally left that job, came on board, started running one of these companies, and he is absolutely suited for this. So it's been really fun because we have very different skill sets, but the same values. And that's what you just brought up. It's like the same drive, but also like the same sleep patterns, the same workout patterns, the same spending patterns, the same eating patterns. And I think a lot of those things, like if you have disconnects and those types of things, it becomes very difficult.
And as a power woman, has it made men uncomfortable that you were more successful with them in the same room sometimes?
So I don't think so, but quite often I was just in a room with a lot of men. It was until my mid 40s, most of my friends were men. Most of the people that I connected with and worked with were men because there really weren't many women who are entrepreneurs. Now, the reality is more women are graduating from college now than men. Women tend to now, there's more women starting businesses than men. So all of this is starting to shift and become more acceptable. But for a long time, it just was that I just didn't, those were just the rooms I was in, and it didn't really seem to be an issue. So I don't know if it made them uncomfortable or not. Like as a kind of red in the color code woman, I'd say kind of their issue, but I don't really see that as a problem. It's really, I see it more as a problem with women supporting other women. For a while, about 10 years, I had a female founders group with a friend because we realized that strong women really need each other and need to be able to hang out and be vulnerable, because men tend to be fine with it, but women tend to not be good with other women if they're not in the same realm. Like if they're a stay-at-home mom or doing more of that stuff, they tend to be mean to us. That was my experience growing up with little kids, with the moms at school. That's where I really had the problems.
And what do women need to be more successful and take their rightful place in that male-dominated space? Is it testosterone? Is it chip on the shoulder?
You know what? Here's the thing. I actually think as a woman, we have an unfair advantage out in the world, but we also have a disadvantage. The disadvantage is we undervalue ourselves. Like there's actually research that shows men and women going in for the same job. In the job interview, the man will overblow his capabilities and request more money, and the woman will talk down what she's actually capable of and ask for less money. That needs to shift. However, on the other side of it, the research shows that women, if a company has at least 30% of the people in the directors' roles as women, the company's happier overall. Women have an ability to bring more empathy in. We can kind of juggle more things at once. So I think we have a lot of skill sets that naturally lend us to be able to do this. And what I've done is I just never put myself in a situation where I was going to be limited because I was a female. I put myself in situations where being a woman was going to actually increase my opportunity for success. In the health space, in our Health Business Growth Collective, 70% of the people who are customers are women because 70% of integrative practitioners are female. So it's way easier for them to come in and learn from more female-focused world. And the men that come in, because it's about 30% men, they realize that most of what they're serving, like when you look in healthcare, women tend to bring their husbands in, right? The men don't tend to take care of their health. The women tend to navigate a lot of that stuff. And then in the health and wellness side, I never saw any issues with being a woman and being limited, but I had my own company. So I was going to just keep promoting myself, right? I'm not going to hold myself back because I'm a female.
And you have 2 boys, right?
Yes.
Right. How was your education style with them, and would you have educated them differently if they were little girls?
Uh, I don't know because I never wanted to have girls. I just wanted to have boys. I always thought of myself as
Why?
a boy mom. Because I just am a boy. Like I always saw myself having boys. It's funny because now I have dogs and I only want girl dogs, but I always saw myself as a boy mom, and I always figured that they would be very comfortable around, women who were strong, women who were powerful, because that's what they're used to. So it's not going to phase them whatsoever. I actually think it's a lot harder time right now to be a man. It's a very confusing time. It's gotten a little bit better, but gosh, over the last couple of years, when that whole Me Too thing started to go on, it was like, well, can I ask a girl out? What do I need to like? It's like kind of a challenging time, right? So having them navigate through that has been interesting, where they're afraid to say anything to a woman for, they might get misrepresented. I don't know that I would have done things a lot differently with a girl, other than really have her lean into her dad. I mean, the research is pretty clear that girls who have very strong relationships with their fathers are just do a lot better out in the world. So to me, that would have been what I would have leaned in on.
Right. And I think not necessarily the Me Too movement, but yeah, the cancellation movement for sure. But also like the Andrew Tate thing, and like the toxic masculinity, like and overdoing that for sure. That has been quite weird in the last couple of years. COVID has affected a lot of kids nowadays, and like you said, some kids growing up without fathers, right? What's your definition of masculinity?
I think this whole thing. So first of all, I hate the whole toxic everything. Like I don't even know what toxic masculinity is. I think there could be just as much toxic femininity as like all this stuff kind of bothers me. I don't like it. So
The
there's
keyword,
there's
yeah.
my thing. I don't like it. But I also think that because being being in the workforce and being a powerful woman, people, oh, you're too masculine. Here's the reality. We all have some masculine and feminine traits in us. Like, just be you. I think this is just why couldn't we just all be comfortable with the way we are, as long as we're being kind to other people, not hurting other people? Like, quit the judgy stuff. I don't think it needs a label either.
Yeah, yeah. Keywords can be misleading sometimes, especially when the masses start using them. But toxic masculinity, I think it's yeah. For example, I could certainly delve into that. I was that before. I could just have sex with multiple women on a daily basis and just go with money and just being a megalomaniac that's on social media pretty much all the time. But I think that I would destroy more than I would create. I think being a man nowadays. But yeah, obviously it's tricky because a woman can also be that. It's being a leader, leading your community to the right place, right, and fostering something and giving back. I think that's my definition of it.
Yeah, I mean, there's bad traits that anyone could embody, like a man or a woman could be a gold digger. A man or a woman could cheat on other people. Like, there's all sorts of traits. They're not necessarily masculine or feminine.
Yeah, and I think there's value in like going back to masculinity and femininity, but we also need to look forward, right? I think these definitions, as time goes, will sort of blur themselves for sure. I want to ask you, like, with your boys, I think they're the same age as I. How have you taught them entrepreneurship, and are they entrepreneurs nowadays, or are they employed?
So I don't believe entrepreneurs are created. I think they are born.
Oh, that's
Yep,
controversial.
I know. I just, after all the cancel stuff, I really don't care anymore if someone wants to argue with me. It's fine.
Oh yeah,
So
it's
go for it. Do not
don't
care.
care either.
So I'm sure someone's like, oh man. But uh, sometimes there are the people that have to become an entrepreneur because they don't have any other choices. But I really feel like the true entrepreneur, there's very clear personality traits of a true entrepreneur. And it's interesting because I never understood what I was. My first husband, I've been married 3 times. And my first husband, I married a banker who went to graduate school because he wanted to get an MBA so he could get a banking job so he could work 9 to 5 and have 4 weeks off a year. Clearly, this wasn't going to work, but I did not understand who I was, right? Like here I had my own business. I started it when I was at UCLA. I was now paying my way through graduate school, and I had a business. And then I started another one, and I'm doing all this. And he's like, you have to take off the weekends and we have to go. And I'm like, why? I'm like, why do I have to take off? So, we just didn't. And he called my money fun money, even though the funniest part was I was making more than him. But it was because it wasn't paid by a company, right? My mother was the same way. She goes like, well, when you get a job, I'm like, I'm never getting a job. She goes, well, what will you do for benefits? I go, I get my own. So if you really look at a true entrepreneur, they're not hireable. Like you try to give them a job and they're going to get fired. I've been always fired if I have a job. I know I'm not hireable. So, and it's totally fine. And, you look at them and they're quick starts. They are ready, fire, aim, right? I mean, there's classic signs of an entrepreneur. My kids, the son who had the traumatic brain injury, if he was able to fully go full out, would be an entrepreneur. He's absolutely the entrepreneurial mindset. The other one is really not. He's much more of a job person. And then my bonus kids, both are job people. We're like, what's going on here? We're the entrepreneurs, But I personally think, figure out what you love. It's hard for me to understand how you wouldn't want to work for yourself. But like I have someone working for me right now, and I can see all of these amazing business opportunities that she could create that could make her far more successful and far more money. And she doesn't want to do it. She wants the safety of a job. And it's completely confusing to me. Like, I don't get it.
Sure. But also it's pretty suicidal if we're going to have AI take over pretty much everything. Do you believe that there's going to be job safety in an AI world?
You know what? We could have said this, 30 years ago with the internet?
I don't agree.
There's always these things, these robots are going to take over the world. The machines are going to take over all this stuff. But what if this is just creating even more opportunities? And what if this is a way that maybe we can, although I say this, I go, maybe we'll work less and make the same or more. However, the reality is where we're pulling AI in, it's just freeing up people to do more things. It's not going to take jobs away. It's going to create different ones. You just have to be awake and look at the opportunities. I mean, the people that are all freaking out and scared and they're going to lose everything, they'll probably lose everything. And the people who are looking forward going, what are the opportunities that this is going to create? They're going to be the ones that, kick butt. I'm going to go in that camp.
Yeah, you are. I am, but most people are not, and I had 200 employees 3 years ago. I replaced them all with AI agents. I'm making more cash. My company is more scalable. I'm making more profit. I'm also more sane, right? Because I don't have to be the personal psychotherapist to 200 employees.
It's brutal.
So, if I have the choice between an AI or a human, I'm going to choose the AI agent. And that's the demise of the job market right there.
Right. It's the demise of that job market. What other things could they be doing? Will we need nurses, health coaches? There's other things, but, we'll still need waiters and waitresses. We'll still need great electrical engineering and auto mechanics that are doing more electrical engineering. There's still going to be places for people. It's just different than what it is now. And here's the reality. We've gone to white collar, and this whole the blue and white collar and this class system is silly. When I lived in Palm Desert, some of the most wealthy people were the people that had taken blue collar jobs and then created companies around them. So I think it's a reframe. What happened to trade schools? What happened to learning how to do things with your hands? There's going to be just a shift, and it's a reset. That's all. And it's going to create cool new opportunities and hopefully take some of the stuff, the fact that we could have radiology turned into AI so that we don't miss things is major and very exciting. I mean, what a boring job. Could you imagine having to look at radiology reports? Maybe we can bring AI in and start doing better with air traffic controlling. What else can we do where human error can be devastating. And you would still have overseeing, but they'd be freed up to do other things. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to need people. They'll be doing other things.
Right. And your business, how has it evolved? What does your empire looks like now in the AI age?
So basically, one company, I have one employee left. It will be all agency people in AI, which is way I'd like to. I mean, here's the thing. I'm used to live in California. I moved out of there. California destroyed having employees. They effectively destroyed it because when you have to hire people now, pay all this stuff, and the first day of the year, you now have to pay out if they decide to leave all their vacation time for that year. Like they did all this horrible stuff that shot us in the foot. I was like going, I don't want any more employees. I want to have agencies where they're responsible for the result, and they have to operate themselves, and then AI, and free up as much time as possible. So that's how one of the companies looks. But, a lot of that company is me speaking, me doing video and interviews. And that's me, and me creating that we then can take and use, AI to help us with some of that stuff. But the creation and ideation, and then, is coming from me. Now I use AI for a lot of the help with clinical talks where I need, references, et cetera. Oh my gosh, it'll help me with abstracts. It's been incredible. And subject lines and just kind of brainstorming. On the other side of it, we have mentors in our Health Business Growth Collective that all have been teaching. They're pulling a lot of AI in. So let's say we've got one of our training programs helps people create their brand. And so we use AI tools to help them create the brand guide, whereas before you would have had to hire a company and do the whole thing. So we're using a lot more AI to help people guide through the process, but we have 10 mentors that work with people to actually take them through, because you still need that coaching and accountability. And with a lot of what we're doing on the health business growth side, it's helping people really identify their brand messaging. Now we have chatbots to help us with the brand messaging once they can kind of download it into AI, so it helps them script it and massage it, but it still has to come from them.
Right. And nowadays, what's your flow state zone, your zone of genius? Like when you're working on that, you're just like time passes through, it's your passion. You just have tons of fun doing it.
Everything I'm doing, I feel that way on. So I always feel like, there's not enough time, because I'm loving everything I'm doing. I really, really love event design. And what's been very fun is that events are bigger than ever. I don't know if you've noticed this, like the amount of speaking engagements and stuff are insane.
Yeah, like post-COVID.
It's like probably 4x what it was before COVID, maybe 10x. Yeah. I mean, insane amount of them. Now we have our events, and then I'm also helping with some other people's events. So I love event design and really how to create a situation where people can learn, be challenged, make great connections, walk out with value, whether they're an introvert, an extrovert, so whatever they're coming in, whatever their learning styles are, they're going to walk out and go, that was the best thing I ever did. And then the other thing I love to do is design, like do kind of overall program design and talk design. I do a lot of speaking. So I love to do that. And I love coaching people, what I call vision coaching. I can pull someone's brand and business out of them. And that's kind of my other fun thing that I love to do.
And you're always in a sort of flow state because you designed it that way, because you conditioned yourself, or because you're so biohacked that you're in a fun mode all the time?
I wake up in that. So what happens for me is I wake up in the morning because things are coming out of my brain and I have to go write them down. It is, my morning brain is my money brain. And a lot of times I'll just go sit in the sauna, but I really try to keep my mornings open, because that's where I get everything. That's where, like right now I'm designing our Mindshare Summit. So a lot of stuff, like this morning I came out and it all came out and I had to like go sit. I sat in the hyperbaric and wrote it. So we have a hyperbaric and a sauna and cold plunge, all this stuff at home. So I will go do that while I'm writing. And that's my biggest flow state are mornings when I'm writing. Afternoon,
It's quite interesting.
not.
Yeah, because I had these states probably a couple of quarters ago. I'm not sure what I changed in my routine, but I'm way busier than I was. So tons of sales meetings, way more wealthier than I was at that time. I'm not sure what I changed in my routine. I'm still doing like the sauna stuff. Obviously, I train tons on a daily basis. I still supplement, but it seems my brain is not in a mode of giving me additional insights, which I need to write down. Why would that be?
I don't know. Maybe you need a little white space, freedom. I find so. One, I think creatine's like amazing. So I take a lot of creatine.
I actually stopped creatine a couple quarters ago. So
crank it back up. Well, I use a very specific, I made this formula that's creatine, HCl, taurine, and magnesium, and I quadruple dose it. So that might be part of it. But I just think too, I'm so excited about these things going on that and I'll program myself as I'm falling to sleep, thinking about the results. And then I wake up and it's just like, foom, and I have to go write it down.
Tell me about like your full stack and your full day to day. So you wake up probably quite early, you go into sauna. Tell me about like the full day to day in JJ's life.
Yeah, so it works. So the challenge I have is that I travel, depending on what's going on, anywhere from 50 to 70% of the time. Now, I don't travel light. I travel with a load of stuff because I don't want to get off my routine. If I'm at home, it's way easier because I have everything here. So I can get up, sauna. What I like to do is get up, depending on the day. I used to meditate every single morning. Now I'm kind of rolling it in because I found I was starting to just do it because I had to do it and it just wasn't the same. So now I might do it a couple times a week. Then I go in the sauna. We are just getting a new cold plunge because ours was leaking. So generally it's sauna, cold plunge, red lights. Then I eat breakfast. Then I go to the gym. Then I come home, get ready, generally eat something else. Then I go work. And so the morning I'm working, writing. The afternoon is interviews. And then at some point, I might throw in a second, I like to throw in when I'm home a second workout because I have a power plate here and I have some other cool equipment that I don't have access to on the road, like a Rev bike, which is a lactate trainer. So if I'm home, I throw those things in. Then my husband and I make dinner and he is in charge of protein and I'm in charge of vegetables. So, nice. And I must say I am the kick-ass vegetable maker, like amazing mushroom things and all sorts of cool stuff. And I make killer Brussels sprouts and he does incredible steaks and pork chops and salmon and all that. So Then we have dinner, then we generally go out for a walk. So that's the typical day. When we're traveling, it's easier to get a lot of steps in. I always make sure wherever I'm going, I have a gym. I have in the morning, I do I take to the gym this big old bottle, which has my creatine stuff in it. It has my electrolytes, has my essential aminos. We travel with all of that, plus some Peak Life, plus some Purity coffee, plus collagen, plus Timeline, plus Qualia, plus my peptides. So, again, we don't travel. And I take my portable red lights with me. My husband wanted to start carrying the sauna with us. I'm like,
there's portable saunas actually.
There are portable. He's like, honey, this because we have two saunas. He does the fast heat. I do the sunlight. And he's like, this, we could travel with this. I'm like, we're out of control. Like I already travel with my pillow. I have a very specific pillow that I like and the red lights and everything else. And it's like, at some point it's enough. It's just crazy.
Yeah, right. Yesterday I had the Under Armour UA Rush guy. He creates infrared technology for clothing, but also for pillows now, which is quite interesting. So you literally sit on the pillow or you sleep on the pillow and you get the infrared benefits at the same time. I want to double click on a whole bunch of stuff that you mentioned because I probably use 85% of what you mentioned there. But first flying, right? Like I was a digital nomad for probably like 6 years. So I used to take like one flight a month. Is flying private worth it for you? And what's your protocol when you actually land?
I can't make flying. If someone else is paying, I totally love flying private. And I haven't just nailed it. It's like I can't make it make sense yet. So I don't fly private. I do love JSX. It's like the closest thing to it. I don't have any like protocol in terms of jet lag or a protocol in terms of radiation.
Yeah, both. Both are super essential.
I mean, to me, for the second, it's just I try to sauna my butt off as much as possible. On the first part of it, jet lag for me is a non-issue now because of creatine. It is crazy all the years. So I will tell you, like the silly thing is I used to always talk about how I had jet lag and that I just didn't handle travel well, blah, blah, blah. So I created my own reality, right? And then I just decided I'm not going to have jet lag anymore because I had all this crazy travel. Like, you know, I'm going to Dubai, then I'm going to Portugal. So I was like, okay, and no more jet lag. What I started to do was use creatine because I was reading about creatine for sleep deprivation. So my hack is pretty simple. You just get on the plane. The minute you know the plane's actually going to leave on time, I change all my time zones to be like that, and I act as if. And so I just shift myself. And then I just use creatine and caffeine, right? So creatine and some melatonin. And it's just like, it's just a non-thing. So if I'm supposed to be there and it's supposed to be sunshine, then I look at the light, I get out, I exercise, hit some caffeine, do a bunch, triple or quadruple my creatine dosing, and then keep myself up till I have to go to sleep. It is no longer an issue for me at all, the sleep deprivation piece.
How do you dose caffeine? Personally, do you test your personal dose scientifically or just like
no, I am feedback? A fast caffeine metabolizer, so I stopped. Yeah, I mean, it's like thank God because I love caffeine, but I stopped drinking it, you know, between 12 and 2 in the afternoon. But then what I will do is use Peak Life. They're either Pu'er or their matcha green, the little packets. And I'll put that into a water bottle like this. And then I add in my electrolytes and creatine. And if I'm going to the gym, I add in my aminos.
Right. Yeah, I'm the same. I start lowering down with maybe like a green tea or yerba mate a bit later, right? Like to sleep at night because else I don't sleep. I know tons of people that sleep with like an espresso before bed, which is really weird.
I know. Isn't that like the European thing? They must all be genetically fast.
The Mexican thing. Like I'm in Mexico right now and a bunch of family members that actually, sleep right before drinking. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't do that. That would
now with creatine. Creatine, I still microdose it. Thinking about it, you mentioned like 4x the dose, but I think I would shit myself doing that.
No, I don't use monohydrate. You're using the wrong form. So monohydrate is only about 15% absorbed. That's why you get like bloaty GI stuff, etc. So with those high doses, if you're using HCl, you can use a way lower dose. So like 750 milligrams of HCl is basically the equivalent of 5 grams of monohydrate. And you know this to be true. Like the reality is the math doesn't math. When you think about it, we have about 120 to 140 grams of creatine stores in our body, and we make about 1 gram a day from methionine, glycine, arginine, and then we're supposed to get like another gram from food. We would have to eat a pound of raw or rare fish, meat, or 2 pounds of cooked. And then if you're under any kind of stress, you want to up your dose to make sure you're getting, you know, tissue stores, and you're also getting it into your brain. So just the fact that you're told to take 5 grams of creatine as a starting dose means that it's not all getting absorbed. So you'll hear this stuff out there about it's all absorbed. It's not. Like, I don't even understand why that's still a thing. I've looked at the pharmacokinetics of creatine monohydrate versus HCl, and it's dramatically different. So I use HCl, and I can do, like, it never causes any GI stuff whatsoever. So I use generally about 4 times the dose. I do somewhere in the 3 grams of HCl, which equals about 20 grams of monohydrate.
Right. Any specific brand you'd recommend me?
Well, I have my own. I created it. I was thinking, huh?
I'll buy it if you ship to Mexico.
We do now ship everywhere. So now it's called Sheatine because I wanted women to get over themselves and start taking it. However, my husband uses it, and our big joke is you just cover the S and it's Heatine, right? But there's no reason a man can't take it. I just wanted women to feel like this was for them because it's so hard to get them to do anything related to muscle performance. They're like, I don't want to get big. And I'm like, oh my gosh, do you know how hard it is to put a pound of muscle on? It's like watching grass grow.
And I can give it to my pregnant wife, right?
Creatine is actually indicated in pregnancy. So I would look at, like, you always have to say, talk to your doctor. Of course, they know nothing about this, but creatine is something we get from food and we make from amino acids. So if it was dangerous during pregnancy, we would be told to all be vegans, right? And actually not have amino acids to be able to cycle this and make it. So.
How has your protocol changed since menopause?
I have focused a lot more on senescence and mitophagy. So a lot of things that are now just related to clearing out old damaged cells and VO2 max training. So, you know, when you look at the things that age, first of all, I'm on HRT. I've been on HRT since my late 40s. Thankfully, I had a lot of doctors around me who knew the reality of the Silly Women's Health Initiative. So I never was without hormones. Like the minute that things started to drop, I was on them. And I think that makes a huge difference. But then you look at the things that happen as we age. And I think the big question is, are these happening because we're aging, or are we aging because these things are happening? Like, are we losing muscle power and strength because of age, or are we aging because we're losing muscle power and strength? And I would argue that you look at people and, you know, in their 30s, they're not working out like they were in their 20s, and they're eating differently. So, you know, sure, there's some aging component, but I think a lot more of it is lifestyle component. But if you look at what happens with hormones, so if estrogen and testosterone are dropping, that's going to impact your ability to work out hard, recover, have that drive, you know, burn fat. If progesterone's down, it's going to impact your sleep. So, you know, I bypassed a lot of that, but I also focus a lot on what I need to do with muscle. I'm also very interested in what you can do to stop this whole myostatin increase. So I've been using a little microdosing tirzepatide for that piece. I will say, like, I am 62, I'm 10% body fat. You know, I can do pull-ups and push-ups. So this whole idea that we have to age and not be like, that's ridiculous. Now I am doing some crazy stuff for joints because for me, the biggest challenge I have is when I was young, I did some really dumb things and really injured my joints. Like I broke my foot in my 20s teaching aerobics in Japan and proceed to still teach on it. So I have a bad foot, and then I blew out my knee doing point ballet. And so have like that, like, so I had a whole bunch of joint stuff. And so I've been using pentosyl polysulfate injections along with BPC 157 and TB4 and a lot of collagen. Yeah. And I just did some stem cells and exosomes. I've done a lot of stem cells over the years. It was one of the things we did with Grant to bring him back. My son was, we did interthecal stem cells. And then we also did these V cells that Dr. Todd, I can never say his name. Anyway, Dr. Todd. Dr. Todd. Yeah, I did those. So we've done a lot of that stuff too. But joints, I just was like, this is not going to become my reality. So stem cells, yes. Pentosyl polysulfate, and I'm starting some low dose radiation treatments too that apparently are a big thing in Europe, but US were so freaked out about radiation that no one will go near it. But that's the other one.
Do you think you'll die one day, or are you in the living forever club?
I think that's ridiculous, the living forever club. I want to.
I'm in that club.
You're in the living forever? I think it's like,
100%.
Here's what I want. I want to make a big impact, leave a legacy, do stuff important, live on through that. And go out when I can't do all the things I want to do. So I'm doing everything possible to be able to think well. Like, I think the scariest thing, if you start to look at it, is losing your mind, you know? Fortunately, the
Oh
things
yeah.
that help you keep your muscles and bones help you keep your mind. So,
Yeah.
you know, I've exercised my entire life hard. So I figure I've got that big time going for me. And that's what I'm really focused on at this point. And I just want to like have a great life. And honestly, like, pretty much accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish years ago. Now I'm just the next level of
Yep.
it. So I'm good with whenever, but I don't want to go till things start to go sideways. Like, I just lost a 19-and-a-half-year-old Chihuahua, and she lived the life I want to live. She was like totally going for it, and then started slowing down, had like, I don't know, 6 months of slowdown. And then the last like 2 weeks, she went downhill. That's the way you want to go, like the Chihuahua.
You still have yours, right? Your Chihuahuas. That's your replacement to the kids being out.
We have a rat chaw and a pomchi now, and one
Yeah,
more
she's
coming.
really cute.
Yeah, they're so cute. They are.
Well, JJ, thanks for being on. I know you're busy, so we're on time. Where can people find out more about you?
Well, thank you very much. I do have a podcast too. It's all health focused, well beyond 40. If you are a healthcare practitioner, then the Health Business Growth Collective, thehbgc.com, is the best place to go for everything we're doing there.
So that was JJ, and